49ers Nick Bosa remains unsigned. Where in the world is John? Where's Nick Bosa? Jonathan Nicholas John Bosa. Where's that guy? Where's he at? We got some stuff to talk about, all kinds of stuff to get into in regards to all this drama surrounding the San Francisco 49ers, Nick Bosa, and what is coming next. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. Here we are on Tuesday, week 1, and we've gotten more leaks, I guess, because as we know, the San Francisco 49ers and Nicholas John Bosa are in the middle of contract negotiations. Are we at the point where we stop calling it a contract negotiation and we just call it a stare down? That's just kind of what it feels like. The negotiating part of it is over with, and it's really just like, like back in the day, like you're on the playground and you draw a line in the sand and you're like, I bet you won't jump over that line. And you're just like, I bet you won't do it. I bet you won't do it. Like, I don't think this is a negotiation anymore. It doesn't feel like it. It feels like what we're going through right now with the San Francisco 49ers and everything that they got going. This is a stalemate. This is a heavy weight bout. This isn't let's get our reps in the room. Let's talk through these things that we want to get done. Nope. This ain't it anymore. We have officially entered danger zone. As we discussed, we are officially in DEFCON 4. Tomorrow's DEFCON 3. We take it up a notch in regards to the seriousness of this. We even heard from Tim Kawakami. Tim Kawakami went on KNBR today and basically said he's obviously heard all these different timelines of when Nick Bosa could and should be back. And it is starting to feel like, based on what Tim was saying, and again, I know a lot of people don't like Tim Kawakami because he probably blocked him on Twitter or something. But Tim Kawakami's he's locked in. He's with The Athletic. He constantly does podcasts with Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch. I mean, he's tapped into that organization. And he was like, today felt like the final day before we started getting really, 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 really concerned about Nick Bosa's availability for week 1. Because again, the logic behind it and the logistics behind it is, okay, you get him signed today, get him on a plane, get him out here. He can start practice tomorrow because, as you guys know, the 49ers will practice tomorrow. It's the beginning of the game week. You get Bosa in practice on Wednesday, practice Thursday, get him on the plane Friday with the team, and he's out there playing Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with the gang. Well, it is 5:40 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we have zero anything, zero movement. We don't know what's going down right now. So that was Tim Kawakami. He was saying like he's starting to get concerned because his thought process behind it was, all right, now we got to worry about soft tissue injury. Now we got to worry about preparing the player for the game. I mean, we've heard from Kyle Shanahan many, many times when it comes to getting players prepared for a game. What Kyle has said and is on record on saying is he doesn't feel comfortable necessarily putting a player in a game without at least minimum one practice in the books under their belt, just to be like, okay, we got him out there, he's in the flow, and we'll get him out there for the game time. Obviously, Nick Bosa is a bit of a unicorn, so it football shape is definitely different from gym shape. I imagine Nick Bosa has worked some type of football repertoire into his workouts where he's going up against the offensive line. He's got to do something football related. It can't just be gym and sprints and up downs and stuff like that. So he's got to be doing some kind of football stuff off the field, I would imagine. Um, but we're in the danger zone. Like, we're officially in the danger zone as it stands in regards to Nick Bosa playing week 1. So let's do this. Let's pull the chat so far. Smash that like button if you haven't already, but let's do a quick little poll in the chat. I want to see how active you guys can be. Let's do a panic meter. Panic meter. 100 being I'm panicked, I'm freaking out, everything is on fire around me, and 0 being we are Gucci, Nick's playing, he's getting paid, nothing to worry about. Drop your panic meter in the chat. I just want to get a sense of where we're at for the chat, of basically how are we viewing this current situation on today, September 5th, 2023 at 5:41 Pacific Standard Time. What is the panic meter at? Are we sounding the alarm? Are we we're chilling. We're vibing. We got a nice little IPA. We're just kind of kicking back. What are we at? So, just based on looking at the chat right now, I see a lot of numbers above 50, see a lot of numbers above 80. I see a 7.5. Okay. 7.5. I see a 0. I see like a trillion. I see 110. 50, 70, 50, 97. I see what that is. A big fat 0, got a double 0. Got a 5%. Got 100, got a 90. I like the 97s. I see what you guys are doing there with that. 95, 35, 20, 75. So we have a broad spectrum of, I guess, panic at this current state, which again is not too big of a situation. And Chris flipped the question on to me. What's my meter at? If I had to give you a meter of panic, I'm getting up there. I'm getting up there. I feel like I did this yesterday, but I'm also panicked today. I really am. I'm getting up there because I do think Nick Bosa is going to be one of those guys that if he gets paid on a Thursday, if he gets paid on a Friday, and they can travel, he will play. I really do feel like that will be the case. But each and every passing day that goes by, again, Tuesday now, Wednesday they got practice. And again, it doesn't feel like a negotiation anymore. This doesn't feel like a negotiation. This doesn't feel like there's nothing to worry about. We're going to get Nick paid. We're going to get him in here. We're going to play. No worries. No, it feels like these guys are stressing. Feels like the 49ers right now are being pressed. 49ers straight up got their backs against the wall in this entire situation because the 49ers need Nick Bosa on the field. The 49ers need this guy in uniform on Sunday, getting ready to go in Pittsburgh to get after the quarterback. So if I had to give my panic meter, man, I'm up there, man. I'm up there. I'm probably up in there in the 90s. I'm not going to lie. I don't like this. I don't love this situation. I'm thoroughly concerned by this situation. Because again, like, for it to get to this point, we have beat reporters starting to panic. Like, not necessarily panic, but like Mike Silver. He basically, like, you're starting to get columns, like, just like we're like kind of challenging the 49ers with our hashtag and all that type of stuff. The beat reporters are starting to challenge the 49ers. The beat reporters are starting to challenge their decision making and starting to challenge this decision of holding out. Like, there's literally, Mike Silver had a quote from him in his article in I think it was the SF Chronicle. He said, quote, the 49ers don't want this smoke. That's where we're at. When you got beat reporters dropping bars in their columns, basically telling Nick Bosa that he has all the leverage, he shouldn't budge, and then saying, quote, the 49ers don't want this smoke, because we know Nick Bosa will hold out, he will dig in, and he will miss games if they don't meet him where they're at. That to me, like, I see this, the smoke is billowing, right? We call ourselves the smoke chasers throughout the off season because there's so much smoke and we're trying to see through it. What makes sense? Is this real? Is this fire? We got some smoke percolating. So we got some real smoke with this entire situation. And we're really trying to figure out, like, what's gonna give. So the thing is right now is that we have heard from Diana Rossini, we've heard from Ian Rappaport that this information is starting to get leaked. So from Ian Rappaport today, we have heard. So this is what made me feel a little bit better, which means that it feels like they're a little bit closer. He does say, Ian Rappaport today said that the 49ers are well above the highest paid edge player. So they are above the, what was it? The 28 million that TJ Watt is currently making with Pittsburgh. So they had mentioned that they are above that and well above that. So he will be the highest paid defensive end. We could take that off the list, right? So we can squash that. But what Nick is trying to obtain is he is trying to get to that level of getting 31 plus at minimum. That's what we know, at minimum. And where Rappaport said they were at, they were in the 30s. So that means that we're close. But also, Rappaport said, barring a significant breakthrough, he doesn't see anything happening. So, what is the gap here? Is it a $10 million difference? Is it a $5 million difference? Is it 3? Is it 2? That changes the conversation. Again, we don't know. So all we can do is guess. And the thing is, if it's a $10 million gap, that's more, I would say, on Bosa and his representation. But if it's a $1 to $2 million gap, I would say that's more on the 49ers and their positioning, right? So that's where it's like, it's hard for us to give a definitive, right? Because we don't know the information. We've gotten enough, right? We've gotten enough info. And what Rap Sheet told us today, he's at 30 mil. Okay, that's close. We've been hearing they want to bridge the gap, get him over the hump, get him above Aaron Donald, get him over that, right? So then that allows him to become the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. So it sounds like they're close, but again, we don't know what the true asking price is, and that's just one level of it, right? The per year average figure is just one aspect. They've got certain contract triggers, they have certain guarantees, percentage of which of how much that contract is guaranteed. So there's multiple levels of where it could be stalling. I think it's probably in the range of all three. I imagine like the big three issues of what they're trying to hit: per year average, guaranteed money, language. I'm sure there's some issue with all three. So bridging that gap, we can only guess at this point at what that gap is. But again, if it's a close gap, if it's a really close gap, I'm going to go ahead and put that bucket on the 49er side of kind of not getting over this hump, kind of dragging it out and not getting it done. If it's a big gap where he's asking for 35 plus per year, like fully guaranteed contract, well, that's going to shift the scale more towards Bosa and his representation. So again, those are the things that we don't know. So it's really hard to be able to assign who's at fault here. But what we can say is that this situation is extremely frustrating for the fan base and for people who want to see the San Francisco 49ers win football games. This is not ideal. It's the exact opposite of ideal. And so we don't know what the situation truly is. And we're starting to get leaks in the media. They said they weren't going to do that. That also tells me that they're a little bit close, right? But we'll see. We'll see, man. It feels like they're close based on the leaks that are coming, based on the timing. But again, it's just this one of those situations where we don't know. We don't know how close it is. We really don't. So we're just guessing. We got a question. Brad, I have a question. In a hypothetical trade, would Carolina be a good team to ask about? Brian Burns. We'd have to pay Burns too, but not as much. Very hypothetical. Still want Bosa to be paid. Now, I'm going to keep it a buck with you guys. You guys already know. I've probably done I've done 4 dedicated episodes this offseason where I came up and schemed up ways to get Brian Burns on this roster. Like you guys know, Burns is my firstborn son. I would love nothing more. Than to reunite with my firstborn baby boy. That's my dog. That's my draft crush. That's my guy. I was in the streets. I was in the draft streets fighting, telling people how good Brian Burns was. No one wanted to listen to me. No one wanted to listen to me. He's clearly really good. Now, this is the thing, though. Are we at that point where we have breakdown? Where they've drawn the line in the sand like we talked about. It doesn't feel like much of a negotiation at this point. Kind of feels like these are parameters from Bosa's side. These are parameters from the 49er side. Who's going to bend the knee first? Are we at that point where we are talking trade, where it's such a deterioration of relationship and breakdown and such a far I would only say a trade is possible to be even discussed if we're talking like a $10 million gap, right? That's the only way. Outside of that, if we're talking, if they're at 30 and they're asking for 33, that feels like a gap you can bridge. That's not a gap I'm willing to trade Nick Bosa at all. But again, it begs the question of when these things happen, what are the options, right? How do we view this? What are we, if we can't sign him, then what? Do we trade him? I'm a big proponent against trading him, even for Brian Burns, even for my guy. I love Brian Burns. I think Brian Burns would be phenomenal in this offense. Defense. He'd be phenomenal in the wide 9 with Chris Kosurik. He would be great. He could put up a ton of production. He could put up a 20 sack season on this defense. He could do it. But I don't know if I could trade I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could trade Bosa. I don't know. Because we know what Bosa is. We know what he brings to the table. We know how valuable he is. I mean, he's young, just like Brian's young. They both have a ton of upside. Both those guys could improve and get better. But again, if you're trying to angle for a trade and you identify the Panthers as one of those options because you have a complete breakdown, it's Burns, it's multiple picks, it's maybe additional players. I would not feel comfortable at all with a straight up trade of Bosa and Burns. And again, I was a guy banging the table that draft season saying Burns is a top 5 prospect. I said, this guy's a top 5 guy. Obviously, we know Bosa went 2 overall, should have went 1, but we know what the Arizona Cardinals did. I was a huge Brian Burns guy and was just banging the table that he was a top 5 talent in that draft class. And again, Cleveland went 4. We have Cleveland on the team. I think Burns went 15 or 16 overall. So again, it's like if you're going to actually even talk about a trade, right? If you're even going to just give it a breath, you have to get a player. You have to get an elite player. You have to get an elite player plus picks. And you're probably going to have to get a player that you're going to have to pay anyways. So it's like that even to me feels not super feasible, right? Like, yeah, I love Burns. Like if we're talking about like consolation prize, something has to give and it's not going to work. Like, okay, like I could rationalize Burns plus picks plus another player, but is that what the Panthers are giving up? I don't know. So I don't like the idea of trading Nick at all. It's definitely a thought process I've had. It's something that I've spun on. I've thought about like potential landing spots. Because what I do think is happening right now is I do think teams are calling. So I think that's part of it. Like we do have teams calling the 49ers right now. So I've heard, behind the scenes, from someone I trust that someone has called. I'm not going to divulge who called, but someone has called on to see the availability of Nick Bosa. You heard a report from some random, I think it's like a random beat reporter on the Jets. Like I have no idea how viable that is, but the Jets have apparently called on him. So I do think teams are calling. I do think teams are checking in. I do think teams like they smell the blood in the water. Like that's the other angle that we have to be cognizant to is that teams are like think of any NFC team right now who has high aspirations of going deep into the playoffs. And the 49ers are one of the teams that they got to knock off. And they see that their best player right now, Nick Bosa is probably our best player on the team, on the roster, considering his age, considering what he's done and his production. Nick Bosa is probably the best player on the team right now. And they're sitting back. They're sitting back like, oh, they're leaking. We smell the blood. They're leaking. Their mouths are starting to water because this isn't normal. This isn't normal. Clearly by John Lynch and clearly by Kyle Shanahan's standards, they did not expect this to go this late. So I can guarantee you teams are calling. Teams are calling. Does that mean the 49ers are listening? I would imagine as a part, and this is where it gets scary, people. Like this is where it gets scary. Is that okay? How much leverage do the 49ers need in this situation? Do they receive offers and then use that as a tool in the negotiation to be like, listen, we have X, Y, and Z offers on the table. You have no trade clause. And if we can't bridge this gap, we have an offer on the table that we would take. That's scary to me. That to me is where you can deteriorate a relationship and things could happen. We saw DeForest Buckner get traded. No one is untradeable, right? So that's where I get nervous, is that if it gets to that much of a breakdown, that the 49ers have to gain leverage by receiving trade offers from other teams. And just imagine they get a sweet enough deal that they would even consider it. And then they use that as leverage. Like, hey, man, you don't meet us where we need to meet. We got an offer. That scares me. I don't even like thinking about it. I don't like the thought of it. I don't like saying it out loud. But again, I'm a range of outcome person. So I try to look at everything from every angle and every perspective. And that's an angle. That's a perspective. So I hope it's not the case, because at the end of the day, 49ers right now, for winning a Super Bowl, their best bet is paying Nick Bosa. That's what it is. Their best bet is paying Nick Bosa. Not trading him, not letting him hold out. Neither one of those options to me are acceptable if you want to win a Super Bowl. Right? Like, they got to get it done. They got to figure this out. I don't want it to get to such a bad spot that they reach a point where they can't recover, they can't figure this out, and they burn bridges as a result. But that's part of this process, like where we're at, is that could be in a range of outcome. And I don't want that. I don't want that at all. Niner Grandpa says, have you watched Niner Grandpa? I have not. Niner Grandpa says, Niner Faithful, if you don't play if he doesn't play week 1, trade him. I don't, again, if you had to give me a percentage chance of me trading him, I would be like 0.0001%. And that's even with like one of the best deals you could possibly give me for Nick Bosa, plus players, plus picks. Like, I don't want to trade Nick Bosa, even under those circumstances. I don't want to do it. I think that would send a bad message to your locker room. I think it would send a bad message to your fan base. Again, even if you get a ton in return, I think the fan base would still flip, to be honest. Like, just imagine, though. Like, just imagine they trade him. The 49ers have stacked up too much negative PR to overcome. They have stacked up such a poor off seasons back to back to back to back. I wouldn't be able to handle it. And I'm pro Niner. I'm looking behind me. I'm a big Niner fan. I would lose it. I would lose it on this organization. I would lose it. I would go scorched earth on every single platform if they traded Nick Bosa. It would be unforgivable, in my opinion. It would be unforgivable that you've known since the day you drafted him number 2 overall that this day was coming. And hey, man, like, again, we don't know the ins and outs. We don't know what Nick Bosa is asking for. We don't know how big that gap is. We really don't know. But still, at the end of the day, man, like, you gotta get this dude paid, dude. Like, we've been talking about ring chasing all year since 2019. Like, that's the opposite of ring chasing. It's the opposite. And the only thing that will like keep my mental health at bay is just the idea that we are competing for a Super Bowl, because these off seasons, call it what it is, they've been trash, dude. Debo Samuel trade request, uh, Jimmy Garoppolo working off to the side like a circus, like the no keeping Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance at the same time. Like, you start stacking all these things, man. They have had poor off seasons back to back to back. And if you trade Trey Lance and then you trade Nick Bosa, you're gonna lose some loyal ones. You are going to lose some loyal ones. Because I still got people in my comment sections today talking about DeForest Buckner getting traded. Could you imagine Nick Bosa getting traded? There are different tiers. There are different tier types of players. I loved the DeForest Buckner, man. I love that guy. I was super bummed out about it. But I sold myself on the logic of, okay, they didn't want to pay him, couldn't pay him. You get the 13th overall pick. Okay, you get a guy in Kinlaw who replace him. Okay, I get the logic. Well, how well did that work out? Nothing against Kinlaw. I'm a Kinlaw guy, but he's a rotational defensive tackle right now. And then you ended up paying Hargrave to mitigate the mistake of trading Defoe, because you never recovered from trading Defoe. So then you do that all over again, but this time with a tiered up player of Nick Bosa. That's unforgivable. So again, I'm starting to get triggered. I'm starting to get triggered at the thought of trading Nick Bosa, because I see people talking about it in the chat. People ask me about it. I'm getting triggered at the thought of trading Nick Bosa. I don't think it would be a good idea. I really don't. 49ers Throwback says it's a different locker room vibe without Nick Bosa. Just imagine that locker room, look, the message that sends to your locker room. I mean, that's the hard thing. It's like the 49ers have sent so many negative messages to their locker room through the way these contracts have worked, and the way they did it with Kittle, now the way they're doing it with Bosa, like the situation with Debo, how that all played out. That's tough, man. Like Trent Williams had to call Kyle Shanahan at like 1:00 in the morning and be like, listen, dude, I have a deal from the Kansas City Chiefs right now, and I'm going to sign it unless you pay me what I'm asking you for. And what did Kyle have to do? Kyle said, oh, okay, bet. Let me call Parag. Calls Parag and says, listen, Parag, we're about to lose our generational left tackle to the Chiefs if you don't pay him. That's what it took to pay Trent Williams. Why is it that hard? Why is it that difficult to pay Trent Williams? Trent Williams should have been paid on day one. Why is it that difficult? Why do you have to leverage Trent getting paid by the Chiefs to get you to move to get the deal done? That's what I don't like. I don't like that thought process. I don't. I really don't. That makes me angry. Now, I'm glad they got Trent paid. I'm glad Trent's here. And I'm glad they got it done. But it's the principle. It's the principle behind it of that's what it took. Not on Trent's own merit and how good of a player he was. No, it took him having the threat of free agency, the threat of leaving, and the threat of signing with the Chiefs to get him paid. That's what it took. Bosa doesn't have that threat. Bosa doesn't have it. He doesn't have the ability to call Kyle and be like, "Hey, Kyle, I'm about to sign. I'm about to sign with Seattle. What are you going to do?" Can't do it. He doesn't have that leverage. So, again, I'm frustrated by this situation personally as a fan. This is me speaking as a fan right now. Like, I try to come on here, I try to be objective, I try to, you know, play my, coverage role and, give all takes, give all sides, give all this, give all that. This is fan of the San Francisco 49ers my whole life. Like, I'm angered by this situation. I'm frustrated by this situation. This situation to me, stacked on the last 6 years of shenanigans, stacked on the last 20 years of shenanigans. Like, how much can you take? How much before you're like, this is getting ridiculous? That there's a point, man, where it gets too much. I don't like it. Not a fan of it. AJ says Bosa will sign on the first day of football, 9/7. So is that Thursday? Hey man, the second he signs, I'm happy. We're good. We're Gucci. We're putting this entire shit off season behind us, and we're focused on the year. That's what it is. I'm only pissed until I'm not. So right now, yeah, I'm upset. I'm angered by the situation. I've told you it's literally affected my personal life because I'm waiting for these guys to get freaking paid because I wanted to go do stuff with my family. I wanted to go log off. Like I literally wanted to go into the wilderness with no service for a couple of days so I could reset, recalibrate and get ready for the year. But nope, the 49ers, this Nick Bosa situation, they're playing. And I guess what? Now you get the repercussions of this bear who didn't get to be able to reset and do all that because we're in week 1 and Nick Bosa's not paid. It's crazy. Family is absolutely more important. That's why we've had to just make adjustments. We've made adjustments, we've shifted, but man, this Nick Bosa thing is a big deal. It's a big deal. So again, I'm only speaking from my perspective, from where I'm at with this situation. We all have different thoughts. We all have different situations and stuff like that, right? So it is what it is. And it's like I see people don't let this stuff affect your life. Dude, this is my job. I don't have my 9 to 5 is talking about the San Francisco 49ers. This is my job. So I don't go do anything else. I don't have any other work. My work is talking about the San Francisco 49ers, and shout out to all you guys. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Shout out to everyone who's watching because you guys really have made this possible for me. You guys have helped me so much and supported the channel so much that you guys have allowed me to be able to cover this team as my job. So, but it's a give and take, right? You know what I mean? It's a give and take. And right now, the biggest story for my job is covering Nick Bosa. So once Nick Bosa gets paid, best believe I'm taking that vacation. But I'm sitting here waiting. I'm sitting here waiting. You know what I mean? Shout out for the super sticker. I really do appreciate that. But you know what I mean? I think that's where the frustration comes in because, we're double dipping. We're double dipping a little bit, you know? I'm a fan, but it's also my job. And, I do my best to keep you guys updated and keep you guys in the know with everything that goes on. And it is what it is, right? So the hope is that we get this thing done, we get these guys paid, and we can move on with our lives, and we can focus on the 49ers, and we focus on winning football games. We get after it because that's all it is. Once Bosa gets paid, we're good. I'm fine. I'm not mad anymore. I'm not frustrated anymore. You know what I mean? So that's what it is. Unfortunately, it's Bosa over Ayuk. Well, so a lot of fans have been kind of upset about this. Um, and uh, kind of, this has been really stressing a lot of people out, right? A lot of people have been stressed out about this thought process of, okay, well, if we sign Nick Bosa, at what cost, right? At what cost to players in 2024? Who are we losing, right? What are we losing in this situation? Well, we kind of went down this rabbit hole um, on Twitter, and our guy Jason Hurley, who is at 49ers Cap, he literally has a website dedicated to tracking the 49ers Cap. Um, and he also just, this is what he does. Like, he crunches the numbers, he understands the triggers, he understands this cap stuff. I don't understand this cap stuff. I've said that multiple times. Like, I don't get this stuff. Like, I assume that the 49ers are going to be in trouble next year, but I also know that we want to win a Super Bowl this year. That's what we want to do. We want to compete and we want to get after it this year, and we need Nick Bosa to do that. So a big narrative that's been starting to bubble up with these contract negotiations is the fact that, okay, well, we're going to lose guys. We're going to lose Ayuk. We're going to lose Kittle. We're going to lose Eric Armstead. We're going to lose a bunch of guys. Well, this is what Jason responded with. He said, the Bosa deal won't cost the 49ers any of their core players. 2024's situation is being overblown. They have options when it comes to contracts. Now, if we look at the 2024 cap, it's down. It's going to be down bad. Like, if we just look at it right now as it currently stands, the 49ers cap situation is going to be kind of gross. Like, it looks like we're going to have to lose some players. But again, there are different things you can do to free up cap space. And so basically what Jason is saying, he says, if you just took Dre Greenlaw, Eric Armstead, and Charvarius Ward and you extended those players, you could save over $27 million in cap space. If you restructure Debo's deal, you can save 15.8 million. And he's saying just with those four players, that's over 43 million in cap space that you instantly free up. And he says the team won't lose Ayuk, Kittle, or Juice. And basically is what he's saying is right now Brandon Ayuk has a little bit over $14 million cap hit in 2024 because of the franchise tag that he has. And if they restructure his deal in 2024, they will actually lower Ayuk's cap hit by extending him. So just like when they sign hopefully when they sign Nick Bosa, his cap hit will drop. So the 49ers overall cap for this year will actually improve when they sign Nick Bosa. The same thing applies to Brandon Ayuk. Is that Brandon Ayuk, if he gets extended next year, his $14 million cap hit will decrease with an extension. So there's clearly ways that the 49ers can pull levers, do contract extensions, do different things to be able to make the necessary adjustments within the cap to be able to keep these guys around. Now, I still think there will be cap casualties. I do think guys, unfortunately, will have to leave. I don't know who those guys are or what it's going to be, but it's going to happen regardless. And we just know that that's the cost of hitting on elite talent. But as long as the San Francisco 49ers can retain a large majority of their core, then they're still going to be able to be fine. And again, it just puts more emphasis on hitting on draft picks. Remember, not too long ago, Talanoa Hufanga was a 5th-round draft pick. Now we can't imagine this defense without Talanoa Hufanga in it. Drake Greenlaw was a 5th-round draft pick. Couldn't imagine this defense without him playing next to Fred Warner. Kittle was a 5th-rounder. So it's like there are opportunities where it's going to be a little bit of both. If you're going to be top heavy with elite talent, you're going to have to do a better job of taking advantage of those 11 draft picks that you have next year, including a 1st-round draft pick, to be able to build out the roster and make sure you have a legit mix of elite high-end talent and young rookie cost-controlled guys that can mix in and you can make it work. So again, this thought process, I do think of basically the 49ers are just going to lose all these players. It doesn't sound like a foregone conclusion that that's the case. It could be some players get lost in the mix. Like I do think, the 40 like if you look at the 49ers and how they manage their roster construction, what did the 49ers do when they replaced Lake and Tomlinson? They drafted Aaron Banks 1 year ahead, right? What other positions? They Tashawn Gibson, right? He's going to be our starter, but he probably won't be our starter next year. And what did they do? They took Jair Brown a year ahead. Well, the 49ers, if we follow the trend, they drafted 2 tight ends this year. They drafted Cameron Latu and they drafted Willis. What does that mean? I don't know. But all I can do is look back at their history of how they've attacked the draft a year ahead of departures and just look at it, be like, okay, they took 2 tight ends. Okay, Kittle has a natural out in his contract next year. What does that mean? What does that mean? I don't know. But you just got to pay attention to it. You just got to look at the trends. The trends are there right there for us to look at and see, and the trends are the trends. So they obviously have an idea of how to rebuild this roster, and they have prepared. You see how they prepare ahead of time. So we'll see. We will see what it is. Brad, are you credentialed for post-game press conferences? I am not. I am 100% independent and proud. But I am looking forward to what the San Francisco 49ers hopefully do in regards to getting this situation taken care of and getting Nick Bosa paid. Again, I vented a little bit earlier because it is frustrating. It's frustrating from the way I cover it. It's frustrated me on a personal level. It's just been a frustrating off season. All the discourse that was created around Trey Lance and Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold, Brandon Allen, that was frustrating. It's been frustrating right now for a while. So, at a certain point, I got to get it off my chest, right? 49ers, I gotta do what's best for me, right? At the end of the day. So the hope is that the San Francisco 49ers can get this thing done and they can get them taken care of. And we can get this off season behind us and we can get going. That's it. That's where we're at. I agree. Get Bosa paid. I'm for the player getting paid 100%. I'm not against the player getting paid. I am a huge proponent of advocating for players to get paid. They deserve it. They put in the work. Without the players, we don't have the product. I love the logo. I love the jersey, but I love the players. And I've said this many times. I think it's because I played, and because I played, I have a big time soft spot for the players. I am always going to be a player advocate. I'm always going to do my best to make sure they got a fair shake. And a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people think it's homerism. A lot of people think it's carrying water for the franchise. Nah, they don't understand that these are people, man. These are people with families. All those families follow me and interact with me and engage with me. Also, on top of that, I was a player, so I know how hard this game is to play and how difficult it is and how they get cooked for making mistakes, but sometimes they're not doing it on purpose. It's a function of the game that they play. And I take a certain level of uh I don't know. It's just the way I view it. I view it through a player lens. I view this game through a player lens. I view all of it through the eyes of what those guys have to go through. And so that's why I'm big time, big time advocate for Bosa getting paid. Obviously, if we're talking 40 million a year, yeah, that's a different conversation, right? Then I'd be like, all right, Bosa, chill. But if it's really him wanting 33 and a half, I'm fine with that. I don't think there's a problem with that. If that's what it's going to take to put this behind us and get moving forward, that works for me. But again, it's not my money. I don't know the inner workings of the cap. It's really easy for me to say, yeah, pay him whatever, but it is what it is. Brad, what's my background as a player? I played in community college, got a scholarship to D2. I played center guard. So I played that's why I'm a big O-line guy. So I played O-line. I was able to get up to D2. I was not my ADHD and grades didn't work out, ultimately being my ultimate downfall. Um with playing, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot about football, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. So um, I'm definitely looking forward though to putting this off season behind us so that we can get back, get back to football, get back to week one, uh, and Get I think that's the number one thing where we're at as a fan base right now is that we just want to get this over with. Like we are we're done with the speculation. We're done with the reports. We're done with it all. We're waiting for that notification that the deal gets done, and so we can move forward. Uh, how tall are you? I'm 6'3". Whew. Dude, that's a deep ass question. That's a deep ass question. If I had one redo in life, what would it be? Boy, that's a deep one. Um, I could probably I'd have to think about that one. There's plenty of stuff that I'd probably pick to redo, but that's a deep question. um, yeah, I don't know. That's a good one though. That's a good one. I'd invest in Bitcoin. There you go. There you go. Um, that would probably be a smart idea. Um, am I going to Pittsburgh? No, I decided not to. I'm probably gonna try to get to LA. I think that I flipped it. I was gonna try to get to Pittsburgh and then I was gonna skip on LA, but I think I might go to LA and skip on Pittsburgh. So we'll see. We'll see. Uh yeah, I like this one. I don't know. I never wanted to be a reporter though. That's the crazy thing. Like I never wanted to be a reporter. I wanted to do sideline video stuff. Like that's what I wanted to do. Um I never wanted to be a reporter. It's just kind of a function of the content. But definitely wanted to do stuff like behind the camera, editing, stuff like that, shooting. Uh seriously though, Brad, why isn't Il Manning on the team? Because the Arizona Cardinals valued him as an active roster member, and they brought him up. Uh, hey man, if you want to set this up, I'm not opposed to it. Michael says, Brad, we should do a GoFundMe to get you to every game. Shoot, I'm for it. I'm already going to every I'm gonna be at every home game. Obviously, I gotta pick and choose away games. Uh, but yeah, I'm at every home game and I'm trying to like decide like which games and trying to map it out like which games. But hey, yeah, start a GoFundMe. Get me to all these games. Brad, is this situation like the Trent Williams deal where Kyle has to literally step in and get his player paid? I don't think so. No, I don't. Because Trent had legitimate leverage of playing on a different team. Like that's the difference is that Trent could have went and played for the Chiefs. And that's the difference in this situation is that Trent was in free agency. He was a free agent. So he was free to sign and negotiate elsewhere. So what I really think the 49ers did with Trent is they let him negotiate with another team and they just matched. That's what it feels like. They just matched. They let him, do all the negotiating with another team. Let him do all the legwork, the structures, the guarantees, uh, the years, the language, and then just matched it. That's kind of what it feels like. Um, but it did take Kyle to push on that more. I would have to imagine that if you're Kyle Shanahan and you're John Lynch, like you don't want Nick Bosa to play anywhere else. Like you want Nick Bosa to be playing. Like I don't think they like this. obviously, like, we have to look at this like uh Parag is in his own department. He's like in his like Kyle's football ops. Obviously, John Lynch has a broader spectrum of like being general manager, so he's a little bit broader reach, but like contracts, like the finance side of it, that's a whole different that's like a obviously they do the deals and stuff like that, but Prague does a lot of stuff. So it's almost like a completely different sub department where they kind of operate off the way they operate. It's not like I wouldn't even say that the full like Kyle and John can just be like, Prague, pay this guy. That's like Prague's like, nah, I've been here through multiple GMs, multiple head coaches. This is how we do contracts here. That's kind of the vibe I get. Is like Parag's kind of like the one pulling the shots. Like he's like, no, this is how we do it in my department. And you find the players, you get them here. We figure out how to get them paid. And it's got to be done a very specific way. 49ers have a bit of a reputation for how they structure contracts, how they do contracts. And a lot of that is, from my understanding, with Parag. So the big issue with that sentiment with Trent is that Bosa isn't a free agent, so he doesn't have true leverage. Like the leverage right now that Bosa has is holding out, not signing with another team, and that's ultimately what's probably hurting him the most from getting paid is that he's under the 5th-year option right now, so they have team control. They could theoretically franchise tag him if they wanted to, where Trent was a unrestricted free agent and could sign elsewhere. So that's part of the issue. Prague is running Leeds, I think, in the Premier League. I don't know much of anything about soccer uh, at all. So I hope we're getting there, man. I really do. I really, really do. I hope we're getting close. I hope that all this huffing and puffing was more about nothing and was just us being frustrated and airing out our grievances. And then once we get it off our chest, we're back and we can figure this whole thing out. I'm tired, guys. I'm tired. I was definitely like, I even called Nick John when we started the show. Like, I felt like I needed to take a nap, but I'm like, I can't take a nap. What if the Bosa news drops? So I'm taking a nap. Can't do that. I'm telling you, man. I've just been waiting. I'm waiting by my phone for this stuff to drop so we can post, we can do reactions, we can do all of it, and then when that happens, I'm taking a big nap. I'm just taking a nap, and I don't care what my phone does. I don't care what I don't care. I'm just taking a nap. I'm sleeping in, taking a nap. I'm tired. I'm like legitimately seriously tired. I really want to take a nap. I want to take a nap today. I was like, I can't take a nap. I can't. What if? What if? Can't sleep. No days off, right? We take this we take this serious. I take my job serious. Um so we'll see, guys. We will see. All right. So with all that being said, we get practice tomorrow. Listen to Shelly, smash that like button. Um, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get practice tomorrow. The big thing that we're gonna be looking for practice is George Kittle practicing. Is Jordan Mason practicing? Tashawn Gibson, are those guys back? So where we're at right now with the team is kind of status updates. We're looking for the status updates of like injuries is pretty much all we care about with practice right now. I don't personally care about anything else coming out of practice outside of guys staying healthy and guys being injury free. And just kind of monitoring status of availability. That's all practice is going to be really used for from here on out. It's not going to be like training camp where we're living and dying with every rep and every situation. So really, all we use these Wednesday, Thursday, Friday practices for are just figuring out who's available, who can play, and who's trending in the right direction. So the one that we're looking for is Kittle. We definitely want to see Kittle trending in the right direction. Need Kittle out there for sure, especially in game one. Can't have a world that exists where we are missing Bosa and Kittle. That would be terrifying. So got to get this thing done. Got to put it to bed. Tired of talking about it. I'm sure you guys are tired of talking about it. I'm sure you're tired of worrying about it. Tired of the off-season shenanigans. And we're ready to go, man. We're ready to get this thing going. I'd much rather talk about who's going to be the starting kicker for week one than talk about this contract negotiation stuff. Because it makes me uneasy that the 49ers best player is currently unpaid at the moment. So want to get this guy paid, want to get this thing done. All right. Kicker news. Last we heard, Moody was kicking on Monday from about 30 yards. So that's another thing we're going to be looking for is watching for Moody's basically availability, how he's kicking. If he's kicking from further out, it does sound like he's trending in the right direction. If I had to bet, I would bet that Moody's kicking for us. It definitely feels like that's where we're trending, but we'll continue to look and we'll continue to see all that good stuff. But again, as always, thank you guys for allowing me to vent a little bit because obviously the thought of trading Nick and the thought of not getting this deal done. Oh yeah, we did release Zane from IR. That cleared up. We released Zane and AJ Parker. That freed up like a little bit under $2 million and all that type of stuff in cap. So we got a little bit more cap space. Definitely needed that cap space for paying Nick Bosa, right? But yeah, man, appreciate everyone. Allow me to vent a little bit. And again, because I'm invested in this stuff, you guys know I want the 49ers to be successful. There's not one part of me that actively roots against the 49ers demise. Like I can only speak for myself in this thing. Like obviously this is what I do. Like I talk about the 49ers consistently every single day and watch and see everything that they do. And I want them to be successful. I want them to be good. I want them to win. So I'm right there with you guys, man. We want to put this thing to bed. We want to win week one and get off on a hot start. That's ultimately what we want to do. So shout out to all you guys. I appreciate you. Grab your cookies on the way out. Let's get Nick Bosa paid. Let's get after it. I'm ready for week one to start. Let's go. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it.